Hey, I'd like to welcome you to another episode of Money Matters Top Tips for Success, where each and every day I bring on new business owners, entrepreneurs, and executives and have them share their top tips for success with you. My name is Adam Torres. You can follow me on Instagram at AskAdamTorres. Keep up with my book releases, book tour schedule, signings, all that other good stuff. Always love to connect with you there. And as always, if you'd like to apply to become a co-author of one of my upcoming books, just head on over to the website, moneymatterstoptips.com, and click on Become an Author to apply. All right, so today I have Adam Kaplan on the line. He's the Vice President of Digital Content over at FanDuel. Adam, welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me, Adam.
So I'm excited to get more into what you're doing over at FanDuel. But before we do that, let's get a little bit further into your backstory. So how did you get started in your career in business?
Yeah, great question. So I graduated college there at the end of 2008 and started working in 2009 on the heels of the worst economic downturn I think the country had seen in a long time. And so I was just looking for a good job. One of my buddies in New York, his company was hiring. Just kind of fast forward to me getting the job and moving to New York to start working for Yext in a entry-level sales role. And Yext is now a publicly traded company. Back then in 2009, it was a sort of small company trying to sort of prove product market fit in selling advertising solutions, performance advertising solutions to businesses with a physical footprint. And so it was a very boiler room type experience, but honed, my skills at Yext and sort of climbed up and the business pivoted and worked on the new product, ultimately got to a point where I felt like I wasn't really learning and jumped out to start some stuff on my own. A couple of years into that, I was approached by Nick Bonadio, who was at the time the CEO of NumberFire, a sports analytics platform, to help people with their fantasy leagues and gaming interests. I was approached by Nick about running the business. NumberFire at the time, it was pretty small, 30-ish thousand users, no discernible revenues. And we spent the next few years building that business before selling it to FanDuel in 2015. And that's where I've been ever since, man.
Man, that's awesome. What a story. So let's go further down that line. Let's get more into FanDuel. So first, tell us a little bit more about the company, please.
Sure. Yeah. So FanDuel Group is the largest online gaming company in the United States. And so FanDuel Group is a product of what was a merger back in the summer of 2018 now. Wow, time flies, huh? Merger back in the summer.
Yeah, we're in 2020. It's crazy.
Yeah, I know. It's crazy. So yeah, back in 2018, FanDuel, which at the time was a daily fantasy sports company, merged with Paddy Power Betfair's U.S. entity, which is mostly comprised of TVG and Betfair casino product. And so essentially those two companies merged right before the Supreme Court repealed PASPA, which was the law that said sports betting was illegal in the United States. And, basically what the Supreme Court was saying is it's up to the states to decide if sports betting is legal in their jurisdictions. And so, prior to that announcement, FanDuel Group was formed under sort of the premise of, we don't know when PASPA is going to be struck down, but we know there's going to be an opportunity, and we have a shared view of the world and how we want to pursue the opportunity of attacking, a more robust regulated gaming markets in the U.S.
Let's talk a little bit more about the gaming market overall. Any interesting trends you're noticing? I mean, there's just so much going on.
Yeah, it's just bigger, I think, than initial estimates. A lot of pent-up demand. I think what we're seeing is the offshore market. When you talk about regulated gaming, one of the main thing you're talking about is, really how we bring sort of the offshore unregulated gaming market into the light, so to speak, into becoming regulated gamers. And so, the big thing there is online gaming, sports betting, et cetera, has been in existence for years in our country through illegal offshore entities. And so, no one really has a great read on the size of the offshore market, but I think what we've seen is that it's pretty big and it's pretty powerful. And so, what that means is, there are a few things that states that are looking to enable online sports betting should really take seriously, because, and we'll get to those in a sec, but like ultimately the name of the game is how we bring the offshore market online. And so, things like enabling full mobile solutions, where users can sit on their couch, download an app, and start betting like they can do from their couch with offshore experiences is really important. It also means that it's really important to have a robust competition set in each jurisdiction so that consumers have choice, and ultimately that tends to be to their benefit if they have choice. And then consumer protections and reasonable tax rates and license fees. These other sort of types of factors are critically important. But I think the largest is creating a robust online ecosystem with competition, so that consumers have choice and ultimately win, and then are willing to move their wallet share from the offshore market.
Let's switch up a bit. Let's talk a little bit about content. What's interesting to you in the content space of this?
Yeah, new platforms are fascinating. I think I've been around long enough to remember when Facebook rolled out to colleges, and being one of those schools that got Facebook and seeing sort of the ascension that social media platform had, and then the kind of the ripple effect it created in future years, I think is just super fascinating. And so over the years it's been Facebook, and then Twitter, and Instagram, Snapchat, and yeah, I mean, I think as you look to the Twitches and TikToks of the world, I think it's just cool how social platforms are really content platforms now. And so, as we think about expanding our reach, thinking about how to attack emerging platforms is key. And I think just generally, how people and how creators can create compelling content now is pretty, frankly, it's a pretty lower bar maybe than there's ever been. It's easier for people to get started and do compelling things and build big audiences than it's ever been, right? Because, you can just pop your phone up and start recording a video of you doing or saying something, and if it's compelling and interesting and has a good utility, you can build a big audience around it. And so I just think it's the ease of which one can enter the content market as a creator, I think is super cool.
No, that's awesome. So the technology side of things and what you're doing over at FanDuel, how's that been affected with this onboarding and everything in terms of gaming? Is it all? I mean, it all keeps pace. Obviously, that's pretty straightforward. But is there anything interesting there in terms of how your like acquisition of new users, things like along those lines?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's fascinating because we see having proprietary and strong underlying technology is critically important to, not only controlling our best destiny and creating the best experiences for users, but ultimately just being able to ultimately accelerate our visions, right? And so for, I think one thing that's super interesting, is a year and a half ago, we worked with a global publishing platform called Minute Media to launch a FanDuel branded content property called The Duel that's grown really quickly. And it's been a really great collaboration with the folks at Minute Media. but one of the areas we've grown really quickly is in, organic search traffic. And we've done a really great job of, getting our content out there with SEO optimized keywords and leveraging, that to drive traffic. I think, one of the things that you see when you look at the search results is that, I think even every company, every platform is starting to wrestle with, the difference between offshore and illegal entities, right? And then the legal entities. And in a lot of cases, there isn't a lot of ways to tell the difference between the two, right? And, I think search is super fascinating, case study into that, just that, we're competing and we're in the legal market, right? And we are competing for search space with companies that promote the offshore legal market or are participating in the offshore legal market themselves. And so, it's just curious, and it's not just limited to Google and search, right? It's a broader, I'd say, kind of thing across platforms, like how, emerging tech and sort of more mature tech and media companies in the U.S. think about their strategy when embracing gaming. A lot of times it's, you've got to kind of choose, are you going to participate in the onshore market and the legal market? Because if not, then the regulators aren't going to be as keen to embrace you with open arms. And so I just think it's super fascinating to see companies wrap their arms around, what this means for them. And I think in the case of Google and, our efforts with Minute Media, I think it'll be super fascinating to see, how Google looks to organize, the information that their users are requesting via search in the U.S. Based on, now that markets are kind of a little more clear cut, potentially legal depending on what jurisdiction you're in, and, just flat out not legal.
That's awesome. So Adam, if somebody's listening to this and they want more info on FanDuel, what's the best way for them to get it?
Yeah, absolutely. So you can go to our website, FanDuel.com. We also have our sportsbook live in several states with retail, but also 4 key states with online: New Jersey, Pennsylvania, West Virginia, and Indiana, with more to come in 2020. You can go to our sportsbook domain at sportsbook.fanduel.com. We're also on social media, so at FanDuel on Facebook and Instagram and Twitter, and then at FanDuel FD Sportsbook as well on Twitter. So you can get, hopefully, a ton of information on FanDuel Group from those outlets.
Perfect. Well, hey, Adam, really appreciate you coming on the show today and sharing more about your background and also all the great work that you're doing over at FanDuel. And to the audience, as always, thank you for tuning in. Hope you got a lot of value out of this. If you did, don't forget to subscribe to the podcast, leave me a review on the Apple iTunes Store, do all those great things we do to support our podcasters. I really do appreciate it. And Adam, thanks again for coming on the show.
Yeah, absolutely. Happy to do it. Thanks, everyone.